So last week for 2 days, we spent 2 days on pasuk 21-24. Zaid Yahir Leitz Shemo Oseb Evrazadon. The willful / malicious and arrogant man, Leitz is his name, scoffer or scorner is his name, Oseb Evrazadon. He acts in the wrath of malice, right? Thank you. So we had two approaches. We had Sean's approach, and then we had Rabbeinu Yonah's approach. Very, very short summary of Sean's approach was that this pasuk is building off of the previous pasuk. The previous pasuk was Shomer people, Shomer mitzaros nafsho, one who guards his mouth and tongue, guards his soul from troubles. And we said their mouth and tongue are exercising impulse control over what you eat and what you say. And those are the two areas where impulse control is the most difficult and the most frequently violated. And so if you strengthen that muscle, you're going to save yourself all the consequences that come from eating bad foods and saying things impulsively, but then you'll also be strengthening the impulse control thing in general. But if you don't guard yourself and you give into those things, then you'll get saros nafsho. So that was pasuk 23. But then 24 is saying, don't think that you're just going to get saros nafsho. If you, in order to maintain the cognitive dissonance of like, I know that this is wrong, but I am allowing myself to do it anyway, you're going to have to create this whole edifice of a rationalization, which is going to make you into a leitz, which is going to make you into someone who is mocking and scorning that part of yourself that recognizes what's good, and also mocking that in other people. And you're going to end up building up this this angry way of viewing yourself and reality, angry in the sense of like refusing to acknowledge the reality of the good. Okay, I said that was a short summary, but not really. Yeah.
Just the last thing is that mocking is definitional to him.
Correct. That's part of his essence, and that's why he's called the leitz, even though he has these other two qualities. Okay, so then we had Rabbeinu Yonah's approach, where the first half of it was very similar. Let me just get the Rabbeinu Yonah there. Rabbeinu Yonah, so he said that this is a guy who is cruel, hates people, rejoices at their downfall, seeks out their harm, and he's a Baal Gaiva. And when you put two of them together, then he'll mock people, and mockery is the ultimate extent of malice, and he'll diminish their kavod, and he won't do it for any tangible benefit. He'll just do it because of this inner psychological drive. And then according to Rabbeinu Yonah, the chiddush is that not only will he verbally abuse people, but he will, even in his anger, act and do violent physical crimes, like whether that's like physical abuse or like destruction or other stuff like that. Okay. And that was where we ended off. Okay. So what we aim to do for today is I said that we're going to try to fill out the picture of a leitz by looking at all the pesukim. We're going to do Bekius, Mishleic Bekius. Okay, we're going to look at all the pesukim that have to do with the leitz, and then stop and we're not going to learn them all inside because that'd be not Bekius, right? But we're going to just see if going through this Bekius changes the way we view either approach. Okay, Sean's approach or Rabbeinu Yonah's approach, and then what we're going to do is I want to do the Rabbeinu Yonah on the first pasuk in Mishlei with the leitz, because that is where that's the other place where he states like his portrait. Okay, so if you want it Tanakh, you can take it Tanakh so you can see the things in context, or you can just look on the screen. I just want to show you, if you do a search for leitz, so you'll find that the actual term leitz is only used 17 times in Tanakh. Okay, there's once in Yeshayahu, once in Tehillim, and then 15 times in Mishlei. Okay, so this, as far as I'm concerned, even though technically speaking, his father preempted him, this is like a Shlomo HaMelech term. Okay, like he took this term and ran with it. All right. So I added the pasuk in Tehillim just because we've learned it before last year, and then also it's it's the only source that's before Shlomo that uses this term. Okay, so let's just translate, and then we can. It's gonna, since this is Bekius, we can raise like light questions and observations here as we go. But again, we're not going to do a rigorous analysis of each pasuk like we usually do. Okay, so this is the first pasuk in Sefer Tehillim. Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach ba'atzos v'shayim u'b'derech ha'tayim lo amad u'v'moshav leitzim lo yashav. So, anyone want to translate?
Fortunate is the man.
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of these terms that so when we did this in last year. So it's well. Okay. So it's so I actually don't like using the word fortunate only because I don't like using the word fortunate in general, because you know where fortunate comes from. Fortune, right? This is one of those words that crept into English, but fortune is like based on the luck, right? And I know we use it to be like, having like good, I'm halfway through Rabbi Feder's last Sunday here, so maybe my outlook will change if I'm not through it. So we saw that the Mefarshim say two things: praiseworthy / happy. Okay, so the way we defined it is it's a type of happiness that comes from virtue or comes from living in line with reality. So it's not just happy like I'm in a happy mood, and it's also not just generically praiseworthy. It's like a person who lives in the correct way and therefore enjoys life, but it's stemming from like the virtues. All right, is the man
that does not
walk
in the suggestion.
Yeah, I'm going to say does not follow the counsel. Yeah, the advice. Yeah. Of the wicked. Yep.
And in the way of misdoers.
Yeah. If misdoer were a word, I would say that that's more accurate than sinner, because usually they say sinners.
The missers of the mark.
Yeah, the missers of the mark. Yeah. There's got to be an English word for this, right? That's too. Yeah, but I think in Hebrew, chet has the connotation of shogeg, right, of missing the mark, whereas the English word sinner, can include like intentional. What do you say? We'll just say unintentional sinners. Okay.
Kid trying to pinata.
Yeah. Although the difference is that these kids don't always have blindfolds. Yeah.
The blind. Is that kind of like
that's too figurative. Yeah, that's too figurative. Yeah. He does not stand. And I'm gonna say on the way, because we don't stand in ways, or when we stand in ways, that means like blocking them.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And does not reside.
This is Yashav from, if you're going walking, standing, sitting, right?
Okay.
Moshav Leitzim, that's like a phrase. So people say session, like Moshav is like a settlement, but for sitting, like meaning is there an English word for that? Like a gathering. It's like a gathering. What was that?
Or the lounge?
Lounge to me is more like the room. This could just be on the street,
Oh.
Yeah, I wonder if session even comes from sitting.
Lounging.
Say again?
Lounging.
Lounging. That's closer.
Nowadays we call it like chill.
A chill.
Yeah.
Interesting. I guess so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's actually like exactly the right word.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've not heard that used as a noun.
Yeah.
The chill.
Yeah. Have you heard it as a verb?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There you go. Right. Okay. So what do we get from you? So as we go through here, let's just try to like articulate just observations. And again, this is like, these are Bekius observations. This is like first impression, right? So you see from here that Leitzim sit. Okay, right? But this is the thing we mentioned before, that one of the qualities of the Leitzim is that they actually gather to do these activities. Like that's the Rabbeinu Yonah used the term Baal Lashon Hara. So everyone occasionally will lapse into Lashon Hara, but Leitzim, that's their habit. That's their like activity, like their hobby. Yeah.
So it seems as though they are sinning, if they are sinning intentionally,
right?
They would be categorized as the unintentional sinners, but
right.
Not enough to be considered rishai.
Oh, so this is a big question in this pasuk. Okay, the big question is: are these in ascending order or descending order of badness? Right. So you would think that rishaim is the worst, right? Mm-hmm. And then unintentional sinners is like they're sinning, but they're doing unintentionally, and then leitzim is like the least bad. So half of the Mefarshim learn it that way. But there's I think the Radak is who we learned with last year, maybe the Meiri, who learns it the other way, that here it's using a different term for Rishaim. Rishaim here means people who are pursuing money, okay, which is a minority, like it's a very rare use of the word Rasha. Chataim are people who are involved in Taiva, and then Leitzim are the worst. Okay, so you could learn that either way. Yeah, Chaim?
Is the fact that the Leitzim kind of like group together, sit together, is that like a defining characteristic against like, the idea of like a Russia, where in Russia, like you can't really have that like group because of like what we talked about in the past, but I guess my question is like, is that like a defining point of the leitz?
Okay,
like,
that's a very good question. Right. So the Russia, you can't have a group of Rishaim. When you say the reasons we referred to before, remind me what you're thinking of, because I have my own thoughts on that.
Mainly because the Rishaim are all really out for themselves. So at the end of the day, it all fall apart.
Right. So they only are going to band together in order to use each other, but ultimately they're going to trample on each other. Yeah. There can only be one, right? And then Chataim are going to band together, but kind of in the same way that that herds of animals do. You know, like if their taivas align, then they'll band together, but it's almost like, it's not really like an intrinsic banding together. Leitzim though, there's like a kiyum in their activity of mocking, if it's an us versus them type thing, or if it's like we're the in group and they're the out group, and they also need an audience, you know? Yeah, David?
Yeah, also like their hangouts or their chills, are they specifically like characterized by like a certain like type of way they are, or is it just like any one of them in a general hangout? Sorry, to clarify.
Yeah.
Are there hangouts like a kind of like the way you can have like a Q&A session that's like under this topic?
Yeah.
So are there hangouts like a specific like topic that their hangouts are, or it's just these people hanging out that you're not supposed like?
Actually, like that they gathered as.
Are there
So
hangouts
they
like
hang out to scorn, or are they scorners that are hanging out?
Yeah.
They do hang out to scorn. That is definitely a thing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you'll see why in the first pasuk in Mishlei. Or the next
the peanut gallery or whatever.
Yeah, they're not like those Muppet guys in the gallery. That's why I think of the peanut gallery. You know, the old men. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, they're not like that. I mean, they're somewhat like that in that they get more activity to do it, or they get more enjoyment
when they go into like protesting, like throwing tomatoes at like the actors.
Right. I mean, the closest thing to Leitzim, if you're going to use angry mob, is angry internet mobs. You know, that they're actually like the essential thing is verbal. You know.
Right.
Yeah, Sean.
Okay. This might be a stretch.
Yeah.
But the sitting with all right, that we were defining them as like working in groups.
Yeah.
Reminds me of an earlier pasuk which we did, which was the Tov Shevet Beretz Midbar Me'eshet Midyani.
Oh yeah.
And what we were saying with that in terms of that their anger towards things that when they are with other people that it
right. It strengthens the reality. Right. So the idea that Sean's referencing is, do you remember what number pasuk that was?
It's Yitzhak.
So 21:19. So better to dwell in a wasteland than if you are angry and you're with a contentious wife, right? Yeah. That's how we learned that way, which is that the anger needs social partnering in order to stick and to have a reality. And if you're on a desert island, or like that clip that I shared of the lion tracker guy, who lived in a tree for 6 weeks. Oh yeah, you missed this? Oh, this was good. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'll reshare it. I didn't do it. This lion tracker, Boyd
lion tracker.
Yeah, Boyd Vardy. Yeah. So he said that like when he would get hurt, he would like rage, but then there'd be no audience for his internal dramas. And so like it would just kind of dissipate, you know? Yeah. So the Leitzim can have their aggressive like lashon hara characterizations of people, but they're not going to stick unless they're reinforced by and so they do that with each other, which is another cause of the glue that holds them together.
I'm not sure if there's any relationship between.
No, I think that's good. It's a good observation. It is a good observation. I think that would explain what they're getting out of their sessions. Yeah. Okay. So let's go on, keep the pace here. Okay, so Mishlei 122. Okay, so this is the beginning of the Shlomo's first outcry to groups of fools. So Ad Masai Pesayim Te'ehavu Pesi. Okay, let's get for how long? You have to capitalize. You naive simpletons. Okay, and again, there's Pesi again is the person who Pesi believes everything, very gullible. What feels good is good. What feels true is true, and vice versa. V'leitzin latzon chamdu lahem. How would you translate that? And scorners, latzon chamdu lahem. Oh yeah, sorry. You're right. I didn't translate it. How long, you naive simpletons, will you love? Folly. Okay, and this is like Pesi type folly. Okay, meaning like your simplicity. Yeah, I could say that. You love, I'm sorry, love simplicity. And scorners,
Something scoring.
yeah, what's lo sachmod? Or nechmad ha'is lahaskel. Say again?
Isn't it scorning? Like Latzim is
Yeah, lots of scorning, right? So then what's the hamdu?
they like hold dear.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that's actually a great translation. Okay. Hold dear scorning for themselves. Okay.
Hold scorning deer.
Yeah, hold scorning dear. Yeah, that's right. Hold scorning dear, scorning dear to themselves. You could also, what's the other way to translate chomed, like as in lotaf mode? It's not usher to hold something dear. Covet, right? Okay, so or covet scorning. Yeah, okay. I think holding dear fits in better here, but there are those who say it's covet. Uksilim yisnu udas, and fools knowledge. Okay. Yeah. So this is a rhetorical question here. He's not like asking them because I don't think they're listening. And this is the pasuk where he is defining their primary orientation towards the thing that defines them. Okay. So pesaim love pesi. Okay. Pesi here is confusing. Pesi could be used as the person or the phenomenon. So they love that way of like operating their pesiness. Leitzim hold scorning dear to themselves. And that's why I was answering a question of it, like that it's not just that they happen to band together and like, oh, what are we going to do? Our favorite activity. No, they seek it out, you know? And then Mishleic fools hate knowledge. I'm going to go Mishleic fools here.
Just for the word petty comes from?
No. That's a good example of the folk etymology, aren't there? Yeah. Okay. So it's hard to get more out of here from the overall context because this is not a standalone pasuk. This one is there's a whole paragraph after this, but you do see from here that they are like actively seeking out and holding this dear to them. Okay, here is what was it?
False cognate.
False cognate. Yeah.
Really quick, what is Bekius like? Like this, I know what it means, how we use it, like, but what's the actual like?
Baki means expert, and Bekius is, I don't even know if Bekius is like a real word.
That seems almost opposite to it's like Ian would seem to be more of a Bucky aspect than Bekius.
Right. So what I mean, the way we use Bekius is like covering ground and doing quantity over quality.
Right.
You know, but you need that in order to get the in-depth also.
Like
overview. Yeah, general overview. Outline. Yeah. Okay. So all right, next one. Gimel lam dalad. This is a hard one to translate. Im la leitzim hu yalit. Anavim yitain chen. This is a difficult one to translate. In fact, you might need to scroll it, as the kids say these days. Im la leitzim. If to scorners, hu yalitz. He will scorn. Okay. The sentence is not going to make sense, by the way.
Is it he's scorning scorners?
Not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it could also mean to speak words of scorn to a scorner.
Or scorners are the people who are being scorned.
Yes, yeah. You know what? I'm gonna hand this to you, but I don't know if we need it. Yeah. Okay. V'la'anavim, and to the humble. Oops, sorry, humble. He will grant favor. Yeah. What does our scroll say there? That's what I was wondering. Does our scroll say capital H?
If brackets one is drawn to the scoffers, he will scoff. But if one is drawn to the humble, he will find favor.
Okay, but if one is drawn to the humble, he will find favor. Okay, so I think I like that better. Okay, let's just go with our scroll for now because we're relying on the Bekius thing. Yeah. Okay, so what do you see from here? Any observations just on the surface level that you see that add to our definition?
Bad company, whatever kind of thing. Like there's a problem, like the basic slang. It's like basically you're like, I guess you are like who you hang out with.
Right. So you see from here that so you see that for both sides, right? But specifically, you see that the mockery is infectious.
Yeah.
Right. That when you hang out with people who are leitzim, then you will engage in this behavior as well. And I feel like we kind of mentioned. Oh no, I'm thinking of our Monday night shiur. Well, why might that be? Yeah, Chaim.
I'm not necessarily answering that.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to say that you said that it shows that scoffing is infectious, but I think it's cool that the pasuk doesn't say that if someone's drawn to humble, then he will be
Yes,
humble.
I also, yeah, right. I was just noticing that as you were
I think
speaking.
this is showing like even more so just how infectious scoffing is. That like
Yeah.
it's like you would think that I'm drawn to Anivus, so therefore I'm going to be
Right. Not so easy.
No.
Yeah, right. With the scoffing, then it directly spreads, right? It's malignant. So how does that work on a basic level based on what we've been saying?
I don't know if it's specifically, I don't know, is Leitzim being used as an example for saying that any character type is like infectious?
So I'm going to go ahead and assume that it's not just an example because leitz is such a specific characteristic,
Right.
and yalitz is a specific verb. So I think if it meant any bad behavior, it wouldn't say those who are drawn to mockers will mock.
Right.
Yeah.
But also read it as dependent, meaning he can't, like we were saying earlier,
Right.
also he can't scoff unless he has people to feed it.
Right. Yeah. I'm just trying to decide whether the cause and effect here, or whether the pasuk is specifically read as that directional cause and effect. Not that contradicts your idea, but imla leitzim. So they're adding in. You said the brackets is drawn to.
Yeah, brackets is if
one is drawn to, right.
Yeah.
Huyalitz. If you're drawn there, then you will scoff. To me, it suggests more that the being drawn there is what causes him to scoff, as opposed to he really already wants to scoff and then therefore he's drawn there.
Well, so I agree with you, and I would also say if he doesn't become drawn, then he's not going to scoff.
If he doesn't become drawn, he's not going to scoff, correct?
Right.
Right.
Which means that the only way in which scoffing is going to be sustainable is with other scoffers.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah.
So I don't know if this is really so much they're saying this, but is it also the reality that the scoffer ends up typically scoffing himself by being around those people?
Yeah.
Like, and then the reason I'm thinking that is because it says he will find favor, and I was wondering if also it's like maybe you don't necessarily become humble right away, but humble people tend to treat you better, so you're
Right.
in a company where
Okay. In other words, you're going to be the recipient of the favor from them,
Right.
and if you're in the scoffing group, then you're
Yeah.
going to be scoffed at.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Part of the ambiguity here, by the way, in translating is how do you properly conjugate and translate that word. So I don't know if it could even be that the word itself is ambiguous, that it could be both ways.
Right.
Okay, let's keep it going here. Okay, now we get to a quality that I mentioned a lot, and you'll see Shlomo mentions it a lot. Yoser leitz lokeach lo kalon umochiach l'rasha mumo. Now here Yoser is from the word musar. So what does musar literally mean? One who rebukes or disciplines. A leitz, I'm just gonna say leitz here. Lokeach lo kalon.
Takes for him.
Yeah, I'm gonna say acquires for himself. Kalon. You remember kalon? Shame. Okay, or disgrace. Actually, disgrace is probably better. Disgrace. Okay. Umochiach l'rasha mumo. One who rebukes. So now I'm gonna go like that. One who rebukes a Russia. How do you translate mumo?
It is his own blemish.
It is his own blemish. Okay, and here it seems to be like if you rebuke a Russia, then either that reflects a fault in you or it will result in him blemishing you, something like that, just from the from the context here. Yeah, so let's do this and the next one because they're related. Al tochach leitz penyis na'eka.
Don't rebuke a leitz lest he hate you.
Yep. Hochach lachacham v'ehaveka.
Rebuke a chacham and he'll love you.
Yeah. Okay, that's the clearest statement. Okay, right. So we have the leitz here hating rebuke, right? So I think this is the most consistent with what we've said so far. This flows directly from it. Why does the leitz hate rebuke?
Well, scoffing.
So that's how he deflects it, right?
No, but you're his whole thing is that he sets up this whole fantasy. It's justification.
Right.
He doesn't want rebuke. He wants to believe in his fantasy.
So let me just push that a little bit further by saying like this. Why doesn't he just ignore the rebuke? Why doesn't it just roll off his back? Right. So the ego. So now put the two together, right? So what makes him feel like he has to attack the rebuker?
Because he's feeling attacked.
Yeah, because he's feeling attacked. Yeah.
And he knows that the person who's attacking is right.
Right. He knows that there is truth in what they're saying, right? So it's not just enough to and it puts him in conflict. That's the thing, right? It puts him into conflict because it reawakens that feeling of, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I am doing it, but but that threatens my self-image, and so I have to push that down by pushing away from the guy who's saying it. Yeah.
Yes, there's a book that like defines like ego as like this thing that's made out of like mind content, like a narrative. And so when you hear like an opposing idea, even if it's like you're not even involved in that conversation, you can't help but like get up in arms about it, because since you're made up of ideas, an opposing idea is like a needle, it's about to burst your bubble, and you have to defend your
right.
That's our identity.
Yeah. We used that analogy I think last week of the. We use the word deflating a lot, or puncturing, right? That was in the latest personality. Yeah, Chaim?
Yeah, he also has to say that the rebuke is not true also. So he can't accept it as a truth and then just like be like, but I don't hold of that. He has to say that it can't be true, and he has to fight it like head on. He has to like push it away.
So it's interesting. The techniques he's going to use, his two favorite techniques, is he's going to say that the thing is not true, but then he'll also have to blemish the source of it, because if he blemishes the source of it, then that invalidates the thing itself. Those who have taken rhetoric, that is not an alarm for us. I forgot to set this back to the weekday alarms. What I was going to say, the ethos, pathos, and logos, right? Those who have done that is ethos is persuasion based on who you are as a speaker. Pathos is based on the emotions you evoke in the listener, and then logos is the actual content or the actual ideas. And so he will attack. Well, he's going to do three. He's going to use all three, right? So he will invalidate the speaker, right? He'll make fun of him and mock him, and you're just a hypocrite, or you're like stupid, or like you're goody two shoes. He will awaken the emotions that are contrary to the aim of the rebuke. So let's say like someone is trying to build up a personality of like a Baal Tzedakah or whatever, he'll taint the image of a Baal Tzedakah by making them seem like unappealing, and then he'll also try to invalidate the actual like logic of the and the actual ideas of the thing. Yeah. Okay. And all in defense of his own values and supported by his own ego. Okay. This one's a little hard to get. Actually, if you could look up the context and tell me if there's anything important before this. So
we just had Zion cut, and then just had.
We're going to be on. I'm talking about this next one. Test Yud base.
Yeah, I'm sure we had
okay.
5 pesukim and 4 pesukim.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
I guess a little bit of context.
Oh, sure. So let me just get it on the screen then.
Okay.
9. I forgot to make this bigger. From where?
We just had Zion. This is Yud Bet. So we just had Zion cut.
Well, I'm asking for this next pasuk.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm confused what you're saying.
Pasuk.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Just that pasuk.
Test and okay.
Yeah.
Test and ches. Okay, I see. So yeah. Oh, it was Zion. Oh, there. I didn't realize this thing. Okay, then. Yoser. Oh, so this is a whole sugya. Yoser leitz lokech lo kalan v'mochiach lo rasha mumo. Al tochach leitz pinis na'eka hochach lachacham v'he'aveka. Tein lachacham v'yacham od. Give to the chacham and he will become wiser. Hoda l'tzadik v'yosef lakach. Give to the chacham and he'll become wiser. Inform the tzaddik and he will increase his teaching. Tchilas chachma yiras Hashem v'das kedoshim bina. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of Hashem, and the knowledge of kedoshim is bina. Okay, I'm deliberately not translating kedoshim. Ki bi yirbu yamecha, because through me your days will increase. V'yosifu l'cha shnos chaim, and you will add to yourself years of life. Im chachamta lach v'latza levatcha tisa. If you have become wise, you have become wise for yourself. But if you have scorned, then you alone will bear. And then I bet ours goes as punishment.
Responsibility.
Oh, responsibility. Okay.
But we read that they had to put the bracket there.
Yeah, right. If you have become wise, you have become wise for yourself. But if you have scorned, then you alone will bear, and then responsibility or punishment. I think punishment actually fits in better. Yeah. I used to say this sometimes on occasion to who did I say it to? It would be, I think, when students would like miss a class, like in high school for like some frivolous reason, and like then they would apologize. And I think I would say this. Yeah, that and it was more for the first half than the second half, but that like, you're like, you didn't harm me, you're missing out on the on the chachma, but they weren't scorning, but yeah. So this is a weird one, right? I mean, so it is in that paragraph with the previous ones. So what new quality do we see in the leitz here? Let's look at the context again.
Seems to be some sort of separation that gets caused by it.
Yeah, separation from
others.
Oh, because it's levadacha, because it's alone. That's interesting. So I thought that's not necessarily isolation, but it means that they get the consequences themselves. It's not like the consequences, their rejection of chachma does not necessarily affect others, unless it's weird, though, unless they mock it, in which case you would think that would be bad for chachma itself. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think building off what Chaim was saying, right?
Yeah.
That they can't accept truth, and so they're going to be distanced from truth, which is going to be
okay.
harmful to them.
So that's a good interpretation of alone, right? Meaning that they're going to be distant from truth, not from others, and they're going to bear it themselves, right? So so it's interesting. So it sounds like what it's doing is it's saying in Zayin and Ches, there's a direct. Okay, well, this doesn't show up here, but like, if you rebuke a leitz or in regards to a particular thing, he'll definitely suffer the consequences of not listening to that rebuke. But then in general, he's going to become estranged from reality and truth. And that's going to lead to a whole cascade of consequences, and he's going to be missing out on all the benefits that it was describing the chacham and the tzaddik gaining. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's also like more precisely pins him as someone who's the opposite of chachma.
Right.
By the way, that pasuk is
correct. Yeah. This is definitely especially ches is the leitz opposite of chacham, and that's also a good point that there are lots of people who are the opposite of chacham, but what quality of chacham is it highlighting here that the leitz is the opposite of?
Intake of knowledge.
Intake of knowledge, right? So this is more not like the ezehu chacham haroes hanolad, who's wise when he sees the consequences. This is more like ezehu chacham halomin mikol adam, who is wise one who learns from everybody. The chacham is willing to put aside his ego in order to learn from everyone, even if that means like correcting his own behavior. Whereas the leitz is completely not receptive to learning from others because of his ego, even to the point where he's not even open to hearing anything, because it might puncture his ego. Yeah.
Does this go as far to say that there's a, I guess, proportional relationship between truth and like accepting truth from others and how connected you're going to be with them, right? Like the chacham bonds over truth.
That's interesting.
Versus like the leitz, who is so caught up with like himself and right how others are going to perceive him and making his own truth. That, like he's so concerned with his own self-truth that he can't connect with anybody else's. That's
really interesting. So if there's a place where that is going to be talked about, it would be in the thing that Isaac, you quoted last time with the is it 2 people or 3 people who sit and there's words of Torah between them? Then the Shekhinah is with them.
I think it's 2.
2. Okay, yeah, right. That there's a greater quality of attachment to reality produced when 2 people who are interested in Chachma are together, that they bond by relating to the quest for knowledge and the actual objective ideas. Whereas with the Leitzim, they're creating their own subjective reality to engage in mutual denial of,
But because it's subjective, right? And you can't combine subjectivity.
Right.
So they're, in a sense,
you're isolated.
Even if they're doing it together, their togetherness is making them more and more.
That bears more thought. That definitely has potential.
That's
though.
how computers work. It's like a networks. Like you can have like a sub, like in a private network, or you could put like a server. But that's built off of like games. Like a lot of people do this.
Right.
Like Minecraft, they create their own private servers and disconnect the game.
Right.
Kind of interesting.
Let's actually just speed it up and translate all the rest of them, and then tomorrow do the analysis. Okay, of the full picture that emerges. And tomorrow I also want to do the Rabbeinu Yonah on the first pasuk that we didn't do. Ben Chacham Musar Av. This is another hard to translate one. A wise son, Musar Av. So there's no verb inserted in between. Okay, but we'll see if we can get it. Discipline of his father. Projection. Leitz lo shamagara. But a leitz has not listened to rebuke. Okay, so a wise son, I think, listened to the discipline of his father. I think that's kind of how you have to like infer it here. Okay, so this is another one that has to do with rebuke. This also seems to have to do with how you produce a leitz. Okay, and in fact, if I remember correctly, I think Rabbeinu Yonah here says that if you see someone who's a ben chacham, you know reliably that he had a father who disciplined him. But if you see a leitz, that was produced by someone who has not listened to rebuke. Okay, so something like that. Okay, this is the strangest one, the one that is most incongruous with everything that we read about leitz. Bikesh leitz chachma v'ayin v'das l'nava nakal. So the leitz looked for, that's also not from, sorry, it's also not for today. Okay, the leitz looked for wisdom and it's not there. But knowledge, l'nava nakal, is easy. I'd say it comes easy. Comes easy for an understanding person. So what's weird about this one?
Is this pasuk in another?
Okay, sorry, what, Ellie?
Saying he looked for knowledge. I mean, it seems a little bit like contradictory.
Yes, so this is something that is a problem for us because according to what we've seen, the leitz is really, not only is he not interested in chachma, he actively mocks it and rejects it, So under what circumstances would the leitz have been looking for
I
chachma?
would say it's more like when it says he's looking for wisdom, it's like putting quotations wisdom almost.
That's definitely an approach you could
chachma
take, right?
Can be a neutral word. It's it can be just you can use it for, thus deal wisely with them is, chachma, but it's,
Right. The only question is in Mishlei, where the whole branding is chachma, then do we have the right to assume that it's using chachma in a
I
neutral
think
way?
we're saying he thinks it's a chachma. Obviously he thinks his truth is the truth. So,
Right. Okay. So you can learn it that way, meaning that there's a certain type of chachma for him. But then the question is, why is he not getting it?
Because it's not real. Because it's his separate illusion.
You're shaking your head,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm going to completely different,
Okay.
right, which is that he is looking for wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's looking for wisdom,
Yeah.
but he edits it out of existence. And
Uh-huh.
so he wants it, but it's
Yeah.
not there
Okay.
because he can't see it. He
Right. Okay.
becomes blind to it.
That's a good approach, Isaac.
I don't know if this pasuk is maybe repeated verbatim later on or something, but I definitely learned this with you.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and I remember the idea that we had about it.
Oh, okay. What was the idea?
Yeah. So it was that the leitz looks the leitz will he'll try out chachma, but since chachma requires a willingness to reject your previous premises and also to be willing to change, then when he encounters something that that conflicts with what he already feels, then he'll say, "Oh, this is stupid."
Interesting. Okay, that's good. So he doesn't actually get it, even though he's
and his conclusion is there's no chachma.
Right. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, Chaim.
Yeah, the translation of the pasuk is kind of throwing me off a little bit because the leitz looked for wisdom and it is not there. Is there it seems like it's two different tenses. Okay, so
there's no word it or it is in Hebrew, so I just yeah.
So then my question is it possible that this is talking about before he became a leitz even?
That's an interesting question. Right. Is an interesting question. I hear that. It is in past tense, yeah.
Is it possible that he looked for wisdom, but he either found the wrong kind of wisdom or he looked in the wrong places, but he thought he was looking for it, and then that kind of led him to become a leitz.
Right. It's a good I don't know if this is an example of it, but just association that I have is that you see this happening a lot with religious people who go off the derech, that they looked for chachma and they were asking questions, looking for answers, but circumstantially, then the people who were around them didn't provide the answers, or they gave them bad answers, and then that turns them off, but in a way that makes them a mocker or a scorner, historically. Yeah, Sean.
Can you also translate it as requests?
It could be requests, yeah.
Right. So differently, but also similarly, a person who's asking for wisdom, meaning he's asking people for advice, but he's already had his foregone conclusion, right? So then if they tell him something and he's like, oh, and it is chachma,
right,
they say that's stupid.
Right. That's interesting.
Fitting also in with he's asking people either to purposely push them down, like we've been saying, or he genuinely wants their information,
Yeah.
but he already has his own answer.
Okay, that's good also.
So he doesn't accept it.
Yeah, that's good also. Okay, we've miserably failed. I'm just
Yeah.
like that's just my fault. That's on me. Okay. Lo yeah. Oh, so this is another weird one. Lo yehav leitz hocheach lo el chachamim lo yelech. How do you translate this?
Well, it is not loved by the leitz when you rebuke him.
So I think the hocheach lo is the person. So the leitz will not love the one who rebukes him. El chachamim lo yelech.
So Chachamim, he will not go.
Yeah. So the weird thing is he won't love. I mean, we already said he'll hate, right? He'll hate the guy. So not love seems to be too tame, to like, to describe it as this as. Okay. So this is a good stopping point. I guess we got through half of them. Yeah. Okay. But I feel like, okay. So let's just try to summarize what new qualities emerged that either we didn't know about or we underappreciated today. Like what do we get? Yeah.
Rejection of discipline. And rebuke.
All right. Rejection of discipline rebuke was the main one.
Being with people like that, it's as a group.
Yeah, the leitz bond of subjective reality denial, subjective actual reality denial, denial of objective reality, fabrication of subjective reality to sustain their own views, but stemming from individual concerns.
Yeah, but also that they need.
Oh, and then they need an
like
audience, and they need
Yeah.
someone to reinforce their own disordered way of looking at
And
things. Yeah.
with all that, still all the problems, all the negatives hit him individually, with not necessarily.
Right.
the whole group.
He gets the consequences of his mockery.
Being by a scorner will make you a scorner.
Right, the transitive property of scorners, right? That it will you'll become a scorner and a mocker. There's also something by the way that if you're in a group of people who are making fun of others, then I feel like there needs to be a certain type of Leitzim bravado that you need to engage in. Otherwise, you're just going to be a victim. You can't just be a bystander in a session of scorners. You're either going to be a victim or and also they're going to, if you're like the Mordechai not bowing down to Haman, if you're not bowing down to the reality that they're trying to depict through their Lashon Hara, they'll scorn you because you are not validating their way of viewing things.
It's almost rebuke.
Yeah, it's an implicit rebuke. Yeah, it's a shtika lav tohoda. Yeah. Okay, let's stop here and we'll have to continue the Bekius tomorrow and then eventually get to the Rabbeinu Yonah. Okay, have a good day.
You're
You're welcome.